serves the board. So the board is the client for the attorney. So if you have an issue with staff, or you have an issue with your city, your attorney will represent you, and those entities will have to go find another attorney to represent them. So, you know, these are just some of the things that, again, if you we break power through great responsibility. Okay? So if you know, so the liability almost always is going to be sued. Are you going to be sued? You know, let's say, you know, there's all this book that going on, right? Everybody knows about that, right? Elephant, everybody knows. Well, let's say you decide that particular book is not for you, right? And you say, well, we're going to ban it. Well, depending on the laws of the state and depending on circumstances, you know, someone could come back and say, we're suing you for banning this book. And it's happening all over the country. And you would say, bring it on, I don't care. Well, if someone does sue you, the minute someone sends you a summons, you're in it. And you're in it for cost. It is very expensive for lawsuits. And like I said, if you lose, it's even more expensive. If the case goes to federal court, it's even more expensive. And it can drag out. Now, does that mean you shouldn't do it? That's up to you. What my job is to give you, you know, you have to know you weigh your pros and cons, right? Your risks and benefits. And part of that is conferring with your attorney, right? We feel this way, right? What are the risks of us acting and how we feel that this is truly the best decision for our library? We really feel this is acting in the best, interest of the library. What's the risk-benefit analysis? And your attorney may say, it's not there, I wouldn't do it. You know, and then still, you can decide to do it. But if you know, again, I would be, you know, careful. The idea is looking at, knowing what your liability is, knowing what the law says, and then you make your decision on that. And that's precisely what the people, what your city has appointed you for, and what your community relies on you for, to make those right decisions, according to the way, when I say right, according to the way your community would want you to act. So what is the prevailing sense in your community, right? Your collection development plan should reflect your community, right? So if your community, again, is made up of many different groups, your library should mirror all those different groups. X number amount of money to spend on your collection. We have this percent, this percent. We have a high percentage of disabled people. We have a community that's growing older, so they're going to probably be disabled or have some kind of disability. We should probably invest in talking books and invest in braille materials and invest in furniture and things that are useful for disabled people, and maybe not spend as much money on child or teen or another area, because our demographics show that we don't have as much of that and they're not growing as much, right? If you have a large Asian population, then you think maybe we need to invest in some aid materials with Asian culture or Asian languages. So that's kind of what it's about, right? Your community. It's not about, you know, one question and you know, the politics, which unfortunately is. Okay, thank you. I will have these slides go to Jessica. So if you want to see them, you can. If you have any questions or you would like copies of the cases I've cited, or you have any other questions and you would like me to send you some authority, believe me, I can. I have all kinds. I'm happy to discuss anything with you. I have no problem. And I very much thank you for being trustees. If it wasn't for you, your library could not operate. I know it takes a lot of time, like tonight. I appreciate you letting us speak. I appreciate that you are doing this for your community, and I'm sure they appreciate it too, because I know it takes a lot of time. And I always say, no good deed goes unpunished. That's kind of that's the motto of library boards. So if there's anything I can do to help you,
thank you, Claire.
Thank you.
Claire, I have a quick question. Maybe it's not a quick question, but one of our policies deals with the age children can be in the library without supervision. Is there a recommended age? I know it's been low.
I've done a lot of research on this. There is not an age in Michigan that says when you can leave a child alone in a public place. However, there are ages, there are things under like the Department of Health and Human Services and the children, like, you know, foster care and all that, you know, Children Protective Services, that talk about the age at which a child can be left home alone. And the age, there's a law that says the age at which you can leave a child alone in a car while you like run into the store, that age is 6. But the age at which you can leave a child alone, is 13. In a house. So, and then there's other laws, like municipal laws that may say curfew, okay? If you look at your curfew laws in your municipality, it will tell you an age, at what age, a child can be out around alone after a certain time of night. And that may be a thing to look at. So I usually tell libraries to look at these and look at one that works best for you, and I'd be happy to send Jessica all that information.
So there isn't like a state
There is not.
recommendation?
No, and they're even, like, they even address it, when you go to like the Children Protective Services, they even say precisely, we've been asked at what time a kid can be kind of out and about on their own. There isn't one. So you just kind of look at these other measures. So if you can leave a kid at home alone, then you could drop them off at the library, you would think.
Right.
So I kind of look at that as a benchmark, just, again, liability.
Well, we're within walking distance of several schools,
Yeah.
so, kids can pop in
Yeah.
after school, and that's not a problem, but when left unsupervised, if there's an issue for their safety or something that they damaged in the library, I just wondered if there was a policy.
Well, if they damage something in the library, the law says the parents are on the hook for that. There's actually a criminal code section that says that. But also, you could, and I say this as a mom whose kid did go to, because when your kids are middle school, there is no like childcare,
Right.
So my kids would go to the public library and has
Sure.
it, and they would go, and boy, did I give those librarians cookies. But I also laid the law down. I was like, if you don't behave.
Right.
And I would say, for that question, you want to look at your liability. What is your liability for, ask your insurance company, ask your attorney, what is the liability if we have all these kids running around alone? And make sure that when your card, registration, so the agreement that your user signed to get a library card, make sure that it has a statement in there that says the library is not responsible for children left unattended in the library. And if the child, we have cases of children who are like 5 left alone in the library. If that happens, call the police. And the police will come and take care of them. And I think a lot of parents, that happens once, they won't do that anymore. But you wanna be really careful because you don't want that liability. Because you can tell your staff, keep an eye out, but you can't guarantee the kid's not gonna walk out.
Right.
Or the kid's not gonna get into some other mischief, or that another patron is gonna take an interest in that kid. You can't take your kids' room and say no adults are allowed in. That's another problem from a civil rights and perspective. And there are lots of libraries that do that. They look at that risk benefit. They decide they're gonna do that. There are cases that specifically say, the Supreme Court has said, sex offenders have a right to the library. They have a right to use the library like everybody else. So, that just makes everything more interesting. And you don't want all of that liability on you and your staff.
So one step further, is there a difference between unsupervised, but a parent is somewhere in the library, but they drop off, say, a 5-year-old here and go into another section of the library, or is it just if they're not even present in the building?
I've had libraries who have defined it different ways. I think that could depend on your particular library, how big your library is. If you're a very small library, the parent can see the children,
Sure.
but like here you can't. So again, it's a matter of looking at your liability. And then you may wanna say, put a sign in here that says, the library is not responsible for children left alone while a parent goes to another section. You can even say, do not leave your child alone. And you can have an age on it. Do not leave your child under the age of 6 or under the age of 7 or whatever you think. Or I can send you those guidelines. Alone with you in another section. And then at least you're covered. If it happens and the kid gets hurt.
Parents' choices, but we do not have a large library
Right.
staff, and there are times.
Right.
that-
And that protects you so that if the worst happens, because none of us want the worst to happen, right? But again, as the board, you have to put your fiduciary duty hat on. And you have to say, our job is to protect the library and its assets. So that means we have to be a little cold-hearted in this, right? In this perspective. So we have to say, okay, look, please don't separate from your kid if they're under a certain age. If you do and they get hurt, not our fault. We warned you. you know.
I think the biggest issue that we've seen here is not that the kids are getting hurt, but that the kids during programs are destroying other kids' art projects, or taking them, or pulling books off of shelves, that type of situation. That's what we see a lot here of.
During programs.
Mm-hmm.
See, and an issue that you should be able to deal with policy, and
That's how
say
I've
that,
addressed it. This
you know,
is what our
or-
policy says.
or having an extra, you know, if you can get like you can't hire teenagers under a certain age,
Right.
but if you hire like a 16-year-old, and you say, hey, could you come in and just help us with program?
We ask for a lot of volunteers
yeah.
for our programs
Right.
for that reason.
And then, but have a very good policy and guidelines that you can hand to each of those
Yep.
people, so that everybody is dealing with that situation the same way. Because what you don't want is Ann, who, I don't know if anyone's named Ann, Ann the hard ass, you know, is smacking kids' bottoms, or being a little bit more rough, you know, firm with them. And then you have Betty, the sweetie over here, you know, just like, it's okay, Lily, I know you didn't mean to, you know, so you wanna make sure there's consistency so that everybody's treated the same.
Yep.
Cause it will be your luck that a protected class will get Ann, who is the hard ass, and they'll sue on discrimination.
Yep.
So,
Well, thank you for that.
you're welcome, and again, please don't hesitate to ask any questions.
Do any board members have any questions before they leave us?
I think Kate has a lot.
I have a teeny bit.
Oh,
I
I'm
also
sorry.
went
I'm
through it.
sorry.
No, it's okay, so my.
Yes, you have
Control.
Right,
I
you
also,
did say that.
yeah, I just wanted to share these. If you have questions, please give me a holler, email, text. I'm pretty much can do anything but FaceTime. You know, so, please. No, I always tell folks I'm a librarian. I love to answer questions, and if I don't know it, I'm gonna go to Claire, I'm gonna go to my co-op colleagues. We would rather you get the answers that you need than be wondering, or left out in the cold, probably is the best way to put it. But, so we're kind of back where we left off with, Claire covered a lot of this, that's why I don't wanna have to repeat myself too much. Do you have the clicker?
I put it right down there.
Oh my, yeah, sorry. You can't move it. I just don't wanna trip myself and keep walking in front of you guys. So a big thing to talk about is expectations of board members. One of the things that we see, and I can share, I was director at the Lapeer District Library for 6 years. They were a newer district library. I was brand new, fresh off the street, if you will, but at that point in my career, I had worked for 10 years for the city of Warren, if you know the Detroit suburbs, in various positions that they are still, even to this day, very much a city department with a whole civil service system. They're the third or fourth largest city in the state. But I got really lucky right as I was graduating with my master's degree and worked in various positions there. But when I became a director, I didn't know what to expect of my board. And so something like this would have been so helpful for me going in, and as I had a board treasurer who didn't have a library card. And I was, for the longest time, I was like, that's horrible. And he wouldn't get a library card. His wife was an active library user. He was that regular that came in every day and read. He was not a book reader. It was not his thing. But we need the numbers. You know, I was thinking statistics, but he was still a strong advocate for the library. He was also, and I'm sure in every community's got that person. He was that guy that went to every county commission meeting. He was, our commission, I believe, had 9. He was known as the 10th commissioner. You all have those regulars that go to everything. I can see some smiles. You all know those people. But he was my board treasurer, but he knew the finances in and out. And so, for the longest time, it really bothered me. But he also knew about the library. He knew all of our history from when we've been part of the county, when we developed into the district, and it was a district with 13 townships and a city. So it was a large district with lots of really small communities. And so I tried not to let that bother me, but as board members, I think you've got an advantage. Hillsdale is a small community. You know about your history. I'm still learning about the nuances of next door. It's always new, but knowing about your collections, your policies, again, Claire talked about knowing your population. There are some fantastic tools, either your census data. Mel also has some great demographic data. You can really drill deep by zip code, even those sub-zip codes. you can get a lot of information. There's some male experts. That's not one of my fields of strength, but there are male experts out there that can help you dig out that data too. So you can really get a strong picture. You're free to reduce lunches. There's all kinds of data you can get from your schools as well. So that you know, and I know if you've got homeschoolers, if you've got other facets, and especially if you've got Hillsdale College, so you've probably got a whole built-in cohort of experts who are already gathering data and know how to, I won't say manipulate data, but use data and review data in an appropriate way so that you can know what your whole community is looking at. Communication is a big piece. I worked for a board for a year. It didn't go very well. I don't work there anymore, obviously. But at one point, I had 4 of my 5 board members all asking me to do different things at the same time. And it was very hard to prioritize what to do and when. And so I think it's really important to make sure that you as board members are communicating with, and I'm again pointing at Jessica because you're right here, but with your director, so that you're making sure what the priorities are, so that if all 5 of you do reach out to her, she knows, well, what do I do first? Is it what the president asked? Is it what the vice president, how do you prioritize that? And again, you want to be very cognizant of the Open Meetings Act, freedom of information. You don't want to have all your emails. Come up with a plan for communicating with your director so that you are not doing the email volleys, and what works for you and keeps you compliant. It's going to be different for every organization. It may mean picking up the phone, or you as board members having phone conversation, one-on-one phone conversations before you do that. And again, it varies. And I was a newer director, and I was also intimidated by my board and was afraid to say, hey, I need you guys to figure out how to tell me, and I know this now, it's 12 years later, but as a fresh director, it was really intimidating to say, hey, I don't know what I should be doing first. And so just keep that in mind. And again, none of this is like, oh, I'm picking on you, or Jessica said to do this. It's not that. This is very much a canned presentation, but I see it so often in so many of our libraries. Again, it's that refer things to your director. I've seen situations where staff was ticked off for whatever reason and made the library board their sounding place. It's not the time or place. And so again, as a board, you can shut that down. They were speaking during public speaking, which again still is not an appropriate time. They can share their dirty laundry if they want to during public speaking for their 3 minutes or whatever your time limit is, but it's really not the place to do that. Be familiar with your library's mission, vision, and goals. Again, you have that fiduciary responsibility, so you hopefully are aware of what's happening. Recognizing your roles of your director and your staff. I've seen in some communities, especially places where there's smaller towns, there's some overlap. I volunteered at the library for 100 years, I'm just gonna keep doing these things, and there's a liability issue when volunteers are doing library work, especially with the Library Privacy Act and patron information, what Laura is reading, what Josh is reading, I'm sorry, so hopefully it's okay to say Josh. I've watched YouTube, I know everyone's names, but I just feel familiar. But it's none of the community's business to know what anyone else is reading. But your volunteers might not understand that. If you put a volunteer on your clerk desk, or even someone's in your children's room, oh, Jessica came in and she checked out 15 Shel Silverstein books, or none of anyone's business, and the liability on that is huge, as Claire just talked about. So it's really making sure that everyone is at the same spot there. I forwarded too fast. Recognizing those roles, but delegating your operations. I've had so many boards that want to come in and do all the things, and it happens sometimes, yes. But in general, you're not library staff. You're not paid staff. There's that huge liability. Please let your staff do their thing. Sometimes it takes longer to show a board member how to do something than it would be just to do it. And I don't mean that as a disrespect to boards, because everyone comes in with the best of intentions, but it can be really, really tricky and sometimes we don't want to tell our bosses no. It can be really weird. As a board, be prepared for your meetings. I had one of our board members tell us last night at her local board she doesn't like to read the packets really because they have a lot of drama right now. I would say read your packet. No, yeah, come on. I'm glad you guys laughed, because a part of me was like, I get it, but at the same time, you need to be prepared when you're walking into a meeting. I had a board member when I served at my first library who would, and this is back before everyone was emailing packets, she would literally be walking into the meeting with her letter opener, ripping open the envelope that we had mailed her 10 days before the meeting, reviewing her packet as she was coming in to sit down. And then I would get a phone call the next day with 15 questions, and they were all really good questions that would have been perfect in the meeting. Because, she's very sharp. So please, as a board, be prepared, read your documents, but also don't be afraid to refer things to committee. You don't have to decide everything right now. Sometimes it feels like, oh, we gotta do all the things, we gotta dot all the I's, cross all the T's. You don't have to. It is okay to take your time, especially if there's legal ramifications or fiduciary. Make sure that you're taking the time to do the deep dive that some topics really deserve. And it's okay to do that. Take advantage of some of the opportunities that we have on the state level with the Michigan Library Association. There's a national organization called United for Libraries. They do a lot of advocacy work and training for trustees. I really like, they do, in the Library of Michigan, thank you Claire, the Library of Michigan pays for a statewide membership to United for Libraries for everybody in the state. I will forward to Jessica the information on how you can access that. The old way was everyone shared the same login and password, and it was messy. Where now each person can go in, create their own login. It's there's trainings or tutorials, but it keeps track of what you watch. It also lets Library of Michigan have some metrics to know that it's getting used. But it's a great tool. One of our boards, the Tecumseh District Library, which is part of Woodlands, they use those videos. There's some short 10-minute videos, trustee short takes, which just got updated. They watch them as a board, as part of their ongoing board training at each of their meetings. And if there was something to talk about afterward, they would. Sometimes it was like, yeah, we knew that, we're all good. But sometimes it was, well, what does that mean for us? Because, again, they're a district library, so their organization is a little bit different, but it was a great opportunity to review and reflect. And that ties into that last point, is if you have the opportunity, so much is online now, but if you have the opportunity to attend, we're doing some regional things. Claire and her crew are doing legal trustee roundtable opportunities. They were in Adrian a few months ago, but they're doing them all around, and it's choosing my ring, your big meeting room as a potential spot for that. And when they're in Woodlands, I try to come to them too, but they're, those are great opportunities to meet with other trustees too and see what they're doing in their communities, talk to folks. Because again, it can be, it's boring, it's not boring, but it can be lonely, and sometimes having other folks to talk to that are doing similar work in their communities and facing some of the same issues. I am not going to read all of this, but this is basically your director responsibilities. Most of this is old hat, but it's keeping those lines of communication open between the board and the library staff. Like that. I like this chart because it's the same thing laid out differently. I borrowed this from a colleague years ago. But the board hires, delegates your daily operations. The director is the one that's doing your on-the-ground work here in the building. As a board, you're the ones that are going to approve the policies. Your director and her staff are going to be the ones that are implementing those policies, and they're the ones who may discover something's working or not working, and that's when you then can go through that iterative process of reviewing and revising your policies. This is an ongoing relationship. You don't have to be best friends. You don't have to like each other, but you need to respect each other and work together. Be considerate in your words and actions. I will say you guys are one of the first libraries I know that are regularly on streaming, but knowing that the world is watching, and anything you say or do, it's out there, and that includes the Facebooks. It includes your emails. If it's in writing, it's possible to be screen capped, shot, whatever, and shared. And so keeping that in mind when you're doing this work, that if you really want something private, you need to be very, very careful, and that a lot of the work we do in libraries is not private, we are public, and keeping that in mind. If you make promises, you've got to deliver on them. If that means that we're going to build a building, or we're going to build a new roof, or do X, Y, and Z, that you do the things you say you're going to do. You really want your community to trust you. They've entrusted you to represent them. But also think about, be willing to change. And it doesn't mean that you have to change who you are, but being responsive to your community. Communities are changing constantly. The pandemic, my little girl's 8, and she was in kindergarten when the pandemic really hit and schools closed, and we're seeing the fallout from that now. Communities have changed. We're seeing a lot of kids that are doing extra learning and catching up, and it's happening, but it's also, the world is really different. When I was little, when all of us, I mean, it's such a different place, and that's the last piece there is watching for the future trends. And you can get those pictures of what your community looks like right now, but are you gonna be responsive for what's coming in 5 years, in 8 years, 10 years? And it's, you know, when I first learned strategic planning, we were doing 10-year plans, and then it was 5-year plans, and now we're doing 2 to 3-year plans, because everything around us is changing so rapidly, and that includes in library land, as I like to call it. Common board structures, again, this is pretty much old hat. I will say making sure your minutes really reflect what happens at your board meetings is vital. When I first became a director, one of my jobs was also recording secretary. That was really hard. I don't recommend that, and I noticed you're not doing that, so good for you. But I also had a secretary, it was the same person that came in opening their packet, so in hindsight, that was probably a poor choice, but you have that 8-day notice for drafted minutes, and we never got, you know, I want to say got caught. We were never dinged for it. But there's always a chance in the world where people are watching you. They want to see those draft minutes available within those so many days. So making sure that you have them. They don't have to be perfect, they're draft. They will be approved in your, or amended in your next meeting, but having that draft available is really important to folks.
And nowadays, it's those little things that people are gonna ding you on. Members of your community who may be unhappy for various reasons will look for things to ding you on. And the easiest things for them to get to are like the OMA and financial stuff. So that's why it's really important to like dot your I's and cross your T's.
Yeah, and we've seen recently in another library where a board member said that was not said in the meeting, but it was in the minutes. And that became a big topic of discussion as well, is making sure your minutes really reflect what is said. But also if there's any motion, how the vote goes, all of that needs to be very spelled out. So that way there's no question. I know in my own experience, really long story short, we have a fund balance policy that is not on a separate piece of paper. It was in minutes in a little like 2-sentence line from 2006. And I had to go back and dig through. But because it was there and they were put on I was able to search for it and find it. But having those minutes, I was able to find what I needed, and now we can codify it in a separate place so that it's not just in one place in the minutes, but having all that. It's really, really important. Your committees are authorized by your board. I've seen some boards that work completely as committee of the whole, and if that works for board, awesome, but it's okay to send things to committee and to think about things. For deliberation, you may need more information, or you're just not ready to make a decision, and that is okay. But the committees are there to support the board and their work, so don't form a committee just for the sake of forming a committee. Your common ones that we see in a lot of libraries, your finance, personnel, and your bylaws or policy committees. At Woodlands, for example, we have our personnel committee is a crossover of our board and our member directors. Every organization may be different because you also have your city department stuff. There may be HR pieces of it, I don't know, but again, there may be lines, and you may be fully independent of that. I don't know your nuances, so yeah. But again, every place is a little different, so having those policies in place. But then if you decide you're gonna go to the voters, or you're going to build a building or whatever, you can have ad hoc committees. They don't have to be permanent. Usually your standing committees are in your bylaws, your ad hocs don't have to be. Typical meeting structure, I'm not gonna belabor this, but I will talk about public comments. I have seen some boards allow public comments at the beginning and end. When there's a lot on their agenda, some leave it for the end. It's totally up to you where you put it. You just need to have it in there at some point. Having a timer is really important when you have time limits, and a way to enforce that, whether it's a phone, a kitchen timer, whatever the case may be. You can have a sign-in form if you want, but it's not required for folks to sign in. As a board, and again, kudos to you as a board because I know that you've been through some of this, but public time is just a time to let the folks talk. You can nod and smile, but it's not a time to address and answer questions or concerns. And that's hard. I know as someone who has been on boards and has worked in libraries pretty much my entire life, I want to help, I want to fix, I want to answer the questions, or if you hear something that isn't accurate, you want to correct. It's not the time. Give them their time. And then a lot of times it gives credence to things that may not be issues. I mean, folks always have the right to speak. That's the joy of our country, right? They absolutely can do that, but it might give legitimacy to issues that are not real concerns right now. You know, someone could come in and use their 3 or 5 minutes, whatever time it is. I don't like blue balloons, and they can rail on you about balloons or whatever. They can do that. That's when they want their time. When their time is up, they can go on. But, go ahead, please.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The only thing I wanna say is, cause I've gotten a lot of questions about this.
Please.
You can't control what people say, you can control how they say it.
Yeah.
So if someone walks up and starts screaming at you, or flailing, or approaching, like advancing on you, you can have them removed for creating a public disturbance, but if someone calls you the worst thing you can imagine, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
They're allowed to do that. So you can't have a rule that says people can't curse, or people have to act civil. People have a right in a public meeting because you have a constitutional right to petition your government. They can stand up and say anything they want, and as long as their behavior is not a problem, then, so pretty much you always want to regulate behavior, not speech.
Exactly, and that's what I was saying, it's the behavior, but folks can come in and say whatever they want. But listen, you know, you can listen and thank them, and then let anyone else that wants to speak have their time. So it puts you in reactionary mode, and again, you may not be ready to respond to whatever it is that is being thrown at you as a board. You may be hearing something for the first time, you may be hearing it for the 7,000th time. But again, it may not be the right time, especially at public speaking. You're not at an action spot in your agenda, it's a listening time. Again, staff comments, because I did see this in a couple of libraries, it's not inappropriate, and that becomes a staff discipline issue. But your public meeting, if someone wants to air their dirty laundry for their 3 minutes, they're welcome to do that, but it's really not the time and place. The other thing, and I've seen this happen in some libraries, is laying out your space. And again, this is awesome, but I've seen some boards where they all sit around a table, and then their public tries to squeeze in around them. It's very disorganized. Yeah. And you know, when things are tense, you don't want necessarily to be sitting next to Mr. or Ms. Tense, or someone who's getting all wound up, or, you know, and I'm being a little flippant, mostly just to keep it light, but laying out your room so that you're keeping you and, like I said, you, Jessica, you and your board safe, keeping your community safe, having a designated spot where folks can come up, it's really, really smart. If your room's big enough, having a microphone, and if you have a microphone, making sure your folks use it. As someone who is borderline hearing impaired, I can't always hear in bigger spaces. And so making sure that if you have that folks can, that they use it, if it's possible. I know not everyone's comfortable with public speaking enough, and then we have to put a microphone on it. On top of it can be really scary, but laying out your space strategically, I think, is really smart. And this works, but I've seen places where everyone's all kind of squished together, and it's not conducive. I'm gonna skip most of this because Claire has covered. Usually I'm presenting by myself, and so I touch very lightly on liability and that kind of stuff, but you've already gotten the expert, so I don't want to shut off and like, if you look at that and see anything that isn't right, please. But the other thing I will say, and especially in smaller communities, is if you as a board member or your family stands to benefit from a contractual arrangement that the library may be looking at, let's say you have family that owns the carpet company and you're redoing the carpets, or the paint. Yeah, I'm just thinking of little things, because like one example, when I was at the pier, we had to buy snow removal equipment, and someone knew somebody at the company. They declared it, they disclosed it. Is making sure that those conflicts of interest are made aware. We go to church with folks, our kids go to school, we know everyone, we know everyone's business, but making sure that you're disclosing that.
And then should you also refrain from voting on it? Okay.
Yeah.
Not just
Yeah,
disclose it.
abstain, and just abstain, you can say why, you know, and that's totally acceptable, but it's really, especially as people know, you know, it's like if you're not being on the up and up, that's going to reflect on you, but it could then come back, you know, you don't want to cast the library in a negative light. This is my last slide, so you're at the end, but again, some really useful resources. We're in the process right now of updating our website, so a lot of these tools will be linked through. There are some resources on there now. The other things that we do for our libraries is that we keep and this again was inspired by Mary a couple directors ago, is we do a detailed worksheet of where all of our libraries are at with the various resources that we provide. So I can give Jessica a statement of where we've had, you know, like if you've asked for your grant money, you've gotten your reimbursements, but also when you pay us for state aid, when you get services back, there's value in what your cost for like tutor.com or but we're covering those, and so you're able to see that sort of return on your investment, and we can share all of those specifics with you. I'm trying to create it so it'll generate it for me, and I don't have to do it by hand. I'm learning how to do that right now, but as, you know, from your co-op perspective, I'm here for questions, concerns, you're just not sure, you need to out loud something. That's what we're here for. And with our 50 libraries, we've got folks at every level of skill, from 40 years in the business to 5 years, or 5 weeks, you know, and everything in between. So, and I know it's getting late, and I promise I will stop, but please reach out anytime if you have questions, and I'm so grateful that you guys have sat through. I know it's a long meeting. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Move for a 5-minute recess. Is that all right?
Yeah, that works,
Yes.
sounds good.
I was gonna say, just a couple more weeks. So,
Generally speaking, because the board is individuals. Now, as things went on, like in our case and stuff, it's possible, that would come in. And it would be, there's a difference between your delegation lawsuit and a personal private. There's very few things that are happening.
Somebody was in the training, it's like,
quorum.
I don't know that for sure, but.
YouTube was acting up. I had I usually have my iPad so I can see what I have, and my phone and my iPad were not matching at all. I couldn't get the full screen, and then the sound went out, so I had to get back out and start again. And
technology is billionaires.
I got to get off the wire sometimes when I'm on Wi-Fi.
So that's, but yeah, there is a distinction between her as an
Yeah, no
individual.
problem, I just looked you up in our system, I have your card number, found your book.
Even if you hire a library, the library attorney represents
Yeah,
the
hopefully it comes and we'll get you.
library attorney would not be able to represent her like I'm not.
Right, I
So,
know.
Thank you, I just, because at that point, I was disappointed that your reaction points.
yeah, there's a
You
lot
working
of
it faster
things
than
to
this time already?
get to things like, and law is still in flux, particularly in this kind of thing. Because like, if you have social media and someone's on social media calling her names, well, if you invite public comments on a government social media page, it turns that social media page into a government forum, like
No,
history.
no.
Anybody can say anything, and you cannot
You had me.
Yep.
You
cannot ban,
Say
you can't ban.
Say exact one. I walked past it.
That is so
Well,
I
I
really
recommend
recommend
That's
when
so
you're
cute.
having all the numbers.
I know, same exact one, same exact
Okay.
case.
Most of these are actually,
But it's,
we
but
got
there,
up
and
to
there's
South.
some flex in there.
Yeah,
There's some
it's a
other
beautiful,
things
beautiful
that say,
neighborhood, especially.
say on your facility, no, this is,
Yeah, my in-laws came home. They're actually moving to town. So you know my parents live in town. But not my in-laws. They're just out of town down Bacon Street.
Okay.
Just out east. East. Just 5 minutes away. Thank you for coming. Always happy. Fun
Now,
station.
now I realize that
So it's like, it is so big right now, that it's so
Yeah, oh yeah, exactly.
I'm a private
You
citizen,
just get to
this
sit
is
in
not
public
official
space.
life.
Oh, no, you should do that. You can do that.
I should
I'm a commissioner, you know, we actually have nobody trained, that was it.
The county treasurer.
So if I share these slides, okay, now I know this is public.
For us,
I'm a state employee.
Okay.
Anything is public record. It's, I have nothing that is secret.
All right, so we can
Okay, well,
access
brief
it.
meeting time.
Absolutely, you can ask.
Again, thank you to our guest speakers, Claire and Kate. Next on our agenda is visitor comments. If you have a comment, please stand at the podium and state your name and your comment, and limit your comment to 3 minutes.
I'm gonna be really quick. I am not speaking on behalf of Friends of the Library Board right now. I'm just speaking as a private citizen, and I just wanna say, I absolutely love this room. And I love that we're having meetings in here, and I think if everybody looks around, it can give you a great interpretation of what this room is for the community. And it just makes me really happy that we are in this room and doing this stuff. There's a lot of misinformation out there about what goes on in this room, and I'm so happy that we have these meetings in this room so people can really see and discredit some of the misinformation that is about our children's library. So I just want to say thank you for having these meetings in this room. And thank you for all that information. It was fascinating. Thank you so much.
Penny Swan, I thought their information was amazing. I have a bunch of people watching. They are thrilled with the information. So thank you for having these ladies and having it done tonight.
Thank you.
I think it was terrific, the presentation. One thing I got to say, and I'm saying it because there's a safety committee board member here. Tonight, when I was sitting in my vehicle, waiting to come in next to the bicycle stand, somebody come riding in on their bicycle. Which I said, do you know you're not supposed to be riding bicycles here? Which is posted right there on the sign, that you guys can all see from where you're sitting. Which I brought up to the Parks Committee many, many times, but because you're the only place in town that has a bicycle rack. The only city spot, so, which is kind of stupid. You have a bicycle rack and you have a sign that says no bicycle riding. The person said, well, how do you get to the bicycle rack? And my common sense thinking is, well, you'd get off at the road and you'd walk it in, because it just says no riding. It doesn't say you can't have bicycles. But common sense isn't always necessarily the thing. The person also said that it should probably be brought up at the board meeting. That's why I'm saying it, because I don't know if they will or not, but I just think it's a little ridiculous. I mean, when I grew up, bicycle was all I had to get around. Not so much for the kids anymore, but, you know, to have a library for kids and other adults and then have a sign that says no bicycle riding is kind of, and a bicycle rack. But now that the board is majority of the people are from, the same institution around town, I kinda wonder if the policies that are trying to be put here are also trying to be put at Hillsdale College. And why I'm saying that is because there's a lot of minor people up there that aren't adults, for one thing, that use the library, I'm sure. And I can remember when a gentleman that was 15 years old graduated from Hillsdale College. So for that reason, I mean, I think they should be restricted, or the people that want to restrict the public should try to restrict their own institution possibly also, because I don't think it's right for anybody to just do one part of the community and not the rest. I know that's a private business, but I still think it should be give and take the same way. Thank you.
Okay, any other public comments? Okay, we'll move on to our next item on the agenda, which is the expense and revenue report, and we promise we'll go through these things relatively quickly so you can get out here in the timely fashion. Thanks for your patience for sitting through things.
Expense and revenue report, we had a lot of revenue come in. Just to highlight a few, $4,600 in current taxes is a large item that came in. We also had contributions in lieu of tax, $2,100 that came in. That is for our MISHDA pilot payment program. We had, under other financing sources, the lease financing, that's the Gatsby 87 that came in. And then other revenue, we had $2,300 come in. Just over $2,200 of that was the check from our insurance carrier for the claim for the damage from the storm that we had. Any questions on revenues before I move on to revenues before I move on to expenditures?
Looks good.
Okay. Yep. Expenditures, just a couple of things to note with the Gatsby 87, you'll see under contractual services that we actually have a credit there. And then as well as capital outlay, some of the Gatsby 87 went into there, but we also had the reclassification of the rooftop unit repairs. It went under capital outlay. It was $2,600. It can't go into capital outlay unless it's over $5,000. So they fund $2,000 for DPS services.
Thank you.
Yes. Any questions on expenditures? We will see, this is not finalized, we have a lot of bills coming out, but the closing date for the end of budget year, which is June 30th, July 1st, we started our new fiscal year. The closing date for that is August 1st, so we'll still have some money coming in and out, just until the cutoff date. We had some bills come that still needed paid and are getting sent out, so that's not reflected in here yet.
Thank you. Any questions? Comments? Good job, Jessica. Next is circulation report.
Let's see here. Stats are circulation report. Circs are up a lot. With it being June, it was the start of our summer reading, so I'm guessing that we saw a lot of that with folks checking out material for summer reading. Just to highlight a few that have been up, board books, our picture books, easy readers, our junior fiction, as well as graphic novels for juniors. Our young adult books are up as well. And am I going too fast for you, Josh?
You're
Okay. I hear you clicking away. Fiction, our adult fiction books are also up, as well as our overdrive reads. Any questions on circulation before I continue on?
No, it's great to see those numbers really jump, especially I think attributing to summer reading, we had some really great turnouts to programming, and, well, people were here for programming, they checked out books, especially during the registration day, I think.
Our patron count is also up, as well as reference questions. A lot of our reference questions stem from summer reading, so you'll see a huge spike in our reference questions, but like I said, most of it comes from questions about summer reading. And then our Facebook stats are also up, as well as a lot of what you see under our bottom portion, money coming in, printing and copying is up, subscriptions up. Book and DVD fines, oh my gosh, $344, it's huge for us. Let's see, loss and damage materials, we've had a lot of patrons come in and pay those off. And then under other donations, we've had, let me pull it back up, the Lions Club, More Insurance, and Vested Risk Strategies all donated in there, so you'll see that as well. Amazon sales are up as well. So, any questions on this? No? Okay.
Okay. Next, Jessica keeps going, director's report and program stats.
Along the same lines, our Lego Club is up significantly. We've kept it going every Wednesday throughout summer reading, and so we're seeing a lot of attendees for that. Couple things to note, our Saturday story time, our little bookworms, and our craft in a bags were postponed for summer reading, so you won't see any numbers for those. And then we had, Karen and I had coffee and conversation in June. We had 4 people attend that. And then to highlight some of our summer reading events, we had 207 people attend our kickoff, with 58 people coming to our super science program with Professor Nussbaum. We had another big one, our art show that we had. We partnered with the Hillsdale Art Guild. They had a lot of money to give away, and so they sponsored our art show that we had, and there were different art exhibits. Children going into 9th grade had their own area, 10th grade had their own area, 11th and 12th respectfully too. And they gave out over $6,000. So it was huge. And the amount of people that came and supported it was pretty impressive as well. We have an awesome community. So any questions on the program stats? Just a quick update on our storm damage. Our insurance check did come in. We are still waiting for full construction to come and finish the repairs outside. They were going to try to come before the end of June. That way we could pay them out of our last fiscal year, but they weren't able to. They have a lot of projects going on at the schools and some other important jobs going on where they weren't able to come and finish the job yet. So when they do, they will invoice us and it will come out of this fiscal year versus last fiscal year. But the insurance check that we did receive, because we received it last fiscal year, goes into last fiscal year's revenue. And I think their quote for the damage was about $5,600, so we'll see that come out.
Excuse me, so
Yes.
both of them still came out of last fiscal year, where the repairs are gonna be next fiscal year?
They can't bill us for the repairs until the repairs are done.
Okay.
So they were hoping to get here by June 30th to get it all done. They were not able to, so they will be out, yes, as they complete other projects. But our insurance check did come and that went into last fiscal year's.
Is there any complication because we got the insurance check for it in the previous fiscal year, but we're paying it in the next one? Good.
Nope. Finance said that everything's good with that. We don't have to worry about that. If we do need to make a budget amendment and pull money from our general fund, we can. But with it being, in the grand scheme of things, not a significant amount of money, they said hopefully we won't have to make a budget amendment for that. That's, yeah. Any other questions on the storm damage update? Carpet cleaning was completed a few weekends ago. Thank you, George, your friend Matt, huge help. And Josh, they helped move furniture out of the main part of the lobby, library into the meeting room so that the main part of our library, the carpets could get cleaned. We previously had the children's room, meeting room, and the hallway down by the meeting rooms cleaned. So the library is now complete. We did everything except the staff area. And he did a phenomenal job. It is Magic Clean Plus. Mike is his name, and highly, highly recommend him. So super great to work with. The library smelled great, nice and citrusy afterwards, not like a nasty chemical smell. Organic, so it was nice for our kids to be able to come back in here and play on the carpets afterwards. So any questions about carpet cleaning?
That looks great.
For our summer reading kickoff, I mentioned that we had 207, I believe I said, 207 people attend that, with 58 people come into the super science program. That day we had 102 children sign up for summer reading that day, and 43 adults sign up that day at the kickoff. Huge thank you to George, Josh, Karen, our friends group. The Hillsdale Beauty College was here doing face painting, and Mark Nussbaum for being here to do our science program as well. So, and also a huge shout out to Heidi. This is her first year doing summer reading in this new role, and she has far surpassed expectations. She's done a wonderful job, and all of our programs have come together beautifully. We've worked as a team on them, and I think we're both well pleased with how it's turned out thus far.
I think I've been really pleased with not only the turnout, but the number of different families that have showed up. You know, children with parents, sometimes both sets of parents, grandparents, a care provider. So a lot of different opportunities for kids at different levels. And just the community has been really overwhelmingly supportive of us this summer with summer reading. So many businesses, individuals, as well as service groups have donated for prizes or for materials or supplies, and it's been really very generous. So I think our community is really behind us and supporting what we're doing right now, and they really view literacy as a critical part of our community, and trying to help that summer slide that teachers often report. So thank you to all the businesses and individuals that have helped with that. It's been tremendous.
Any other comments on that before we move on?
How many kids have been showing up week over week to claim their prizes for
Oh
summer reading?
Gosh, we've been running out of prizes. We had to order more
That's a good problem.
prizes, yes, because we weren't prepared for the amount of kids coming in to claim prizes. It is fantastic, yeah. It's a good problem to have.
Sometimes in the past, kids have registered, but then they don't complete the challenge, or they just, the interest falls off. And I think one of the differences is the group, the programming they put together, but also the timeline. We started it really soon
Right
after
after
school got out, and in the past, there was like a 2 or 3 week gap between when school got out and summer reading started, and you kind of lost that momentum. And I think teachers in schools really pushed summer reading programs and hyped up calendars, and you went to different schools to provide information and to build up just public awareness of it, and the Facebook posts helped, and people commenting and sharing on those. So I think it kept the momentum going, and I think it was really wise to start as early as you started. So kudos to the planning committee.
All Heidi's idea, so all credit goes to her. She's phenomenal. We had a member attend the Great Start Collaborative Safety Fair in June. During that safety fair, we were signing people up for summer reading there too. We ended up signing up 47 more children and 12 adults for summer reading while being there. The Great Start Collaborative recorded 120 families with 194 adults and 262 children that attended. Do you want that again?
Got it.
You got it, okay.
120, 194, 262.
127, 194, and 262.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So that was a super awesome event that we were able to do, and, I really enjoy working with the Great Start Collaborative. We have similar missions. We work really well together. We have a community bulletin board specific for the Great Start Collaborative there. And they're helping us with our summer, reading community outreach project, as well with the books that they're donating to the literacy canvas bags that we're donating, for kids in local shelters. So, super great partnership there. Any comments about that question? Okay. I think, Tara, are you here
Yeah.
for the Friends group? Okay. Tara has a little bit of an update about our Friends group.
Hello, I'm Tara Scott, Vice President. Brianna could not be here tonight, so I am filling in, and I will make it very quick. First of all, we raised $50 for our basket raffle for summer reading. We will also continue to support the Sips and Speaks. When I mean support, we are purchasing like coffee and those kind of things so when you guys have your Sips and Speaks with the board members.
Oh, okay. What
She
is
calls
this?
it Sips and Speaks, we never call it coffee conversation.
Oh, I'm sorry, these
That's
are
okay.
Brianna's
Say
notes,
that.
so I will make sure she gets it right.
That's fine. I was like, for the minutes, if you look confused.
Yeah.
We are actively right now really working on our recruitment for our Kroger rewards. If you don't know what the Kroger rewards are, it is basically free money to the Friends group. So you just assign your Kroger card to organization. We would hope you choose Friends of the Library, and we get a check quarterly. And so we're really trying to push that. You'll see that a lot on our Facebook page and stuff like that. I remember one time there was only like 2 people signed up, and we still got like $45. So it's really, and now that we're getting more people, it's really a great way for us to raise more money.
And it doesn't cost
Costs nothing.
nothing to the customer.
Absolutely nothing. We also are brainstorming. We're actually, Brianna and I are going to be talking to some friends at the Community Foundation. We as public school teachers really want to get library cards in the hands of children, and we kind of started something with the school where we were bringing kids here to purchase or get library cards or purchase them if they are out of the area. And we are looking into getting a grant where we could possibly provide library who do not have library. Going to be a bigger initiative that we're pursuing in the fall, or going into the fall, I should say. And we are also working on our social media posts. We're trying to get up activity up on our social media. We also discussed some of our next fundraiser possibilities. We talked about doing another fall shirt because our last shirt fundraiser, which I'm not wearing the shirt, I should be, but I'm not, raised close to like almost $400 at this point for Friends of the Library, plus it got 18 new members of Friends of the Library. And so we are pursuing doing another shirt fundraiser for the fall. And last time when we did it, we had our patrons vote on Facebook for the shirt, and it really bumped up our social media, so we think we're gonna do that again. And then we are also thinking about, which I'm really excited about, researching trivia nights as a fundraiser at possibly maybe the local brewery or Los Ritos, or having like a fundraiser trivia night for the Friends of the Library group. Lastly, we're also talking about doing a patron sale of library bags. So like if you're looking for library books and you get too many and you need a bag, you can purchase a bag for a specific price. So we are researching that information there. And that is all I have. Sorry it took me so long.
Thank you, Tara. And I'd just like to add that I attended your last couple meetings, but last meeting was the largest group yet.
Yes,
The
it
group
was
seems to be
huge.
growing, which is an awesome momentum, and more support and more ideas for fundraising, and just general support, so thanks for.
Yeah, and I guess for people that don't know it, we should probably say, like, the Friend of the Libraries, we're just an advocate for the library, so basically, they need something, they can come to us and we can say, okay, we've got some money here. So, our whole intention is just to support the library.
Great, we appreciate you, thank you. All right, next we have, old business. And the only thing was the board email discussion, which.
Yes, you guys had
Oh.
said, that we were going to postpone the, board email discussion until Kate from Woodlands is here. In case there's any questions for her on the emails, just to bring you up to speed, Laura. There have been some FOIA requests and, I guess best practice for board emails is to have a separate email dedicated to just the library board in case you get FOIA'd. Then it's easy to find your emails and send through. So we have discussed, even before my directorship, this was kind of a conversation that they had. The options I think that we discussed were having a city email, the city would provide it. However, you'd have to complete regular city trainings. If you don't complete it, you get locked out. Then you have to contact IT while they are here and available for them to let you in, for you to immediately complete your trainings, then for them to unlock you. And then another option is email through Woodlands. Board members are responsible for all of these options, maintaining their own official email, and providing any relevant information if they were to get FOIA'd, as it is part of your public official duty. Also, the other option, I think George, you had brought this up, having a uniform email account. So like last name HCL@gmail or last name .firstname@gmail.com. So those are the options. That's kind of what we talked about. We put it on hold until Kate was here in case there were questions for her. So I'll let you guys have the table on this.
Thoughts, folks?
Could we just have Kate give the pitch for getting email from?
There's no advantage or disadvantage. It's Woodlands server is Google Workspace,
Okay.
so it's basically Gmail, but with the woodlands.lib.mi.us address. We've got a few folks that have taken advantage of it. It works, but again, we always have that login issue. I'm here, if you're interested, I can set you up before you go home tonight, because you have to then acknowledge that login and log in within so many days or it expires. And that's, I've been literally going in this months-long thing with another board because I send the information and they don't go and log in and then they want to use it and it's expired and it's literally, it's in circles.
So maybe even if we don't do this right now, maybe like get you on, set up a time to get you on the phone and say, send us the key.
Like, I've got my laptop, I can
Yeah.
come, I log into the admin thing, or we can sync up time so that everyone is, within so many days, everyone's available if they want to do that. If, I think it's okay, I hope it's okay to say this, if I were in your position as a board member, I would create a separate Gmail account. That really is the easiest, you can access it on any device. As someone who has many Gmail accounts already, they're very easy to do. It also leaves, I mean, I'm not planning on going anywhere, but if something happens, then my admin is not tech savvy. Laura would not be able to help you out without getting help. The trade-off with that is that your device, you're able to authenticate if something blows up. It's you and Google doing the digging, or if you have a FOIA. We don't have the long-term records retention, the next level of Google's. Yes, and I'm trying to, there's a word we use for it and it always comes out of my head. But it's something we've been looking at because of our own retention needs. And so it's an option. I don't know if it's the best option for you right now. We are also, because the question came up, we're talking to our attorney to make sure that we can do this. We provide it for our member libraries, but someone suggested doing boards, and we said, okay, I think it's a great idea. But nobody wanted to for years. And now all of a sudden, I think with the way the world is kind of moving and everything getting FOIA, having a separate email, no matter how you do it, I think is really a good idea. Just keep your personal information separate. As someone who combines personal and professional way too much, If I get FOIA, it will take me years to find, depending what it is.
Yeah.
And then it's the time of reacting, you know, it's your, yeah, so if it's not there, then you don't have to worry about it, it's just your library email, then you're protecting yourself, your family.
And if you're in a lawsuit, the other side can subpoena your device.
Yeah.
So if you have personal email and you're using your phone or you're texting, and it's a lawsuit, they can get your device to look for those.
So it's become a legal issue that is new to us, so, I'm glad to help, but I don't know if it's the best choice for you. I think the separate Gmail where you have 100% of the control. And that way for troubleshooting, I'm glad to help you with it, you know, but, you know, do the tech support side, even sit with folks. I know everyone's levels are different of comfort level with doing that, but I think that's probably the best way. Or if you know, depending, if your employer allows you to do that and you're willing to take that risk, that's okay too. But I would advise it. If you're mixing personal and professional, or your professional and your library, my professional is library, but I know everyone's situation is different, so those are things to think about too. You could be exposing, if you're using your work email, your employer could be at risk too, so that's something else to think about.
Thoughts, yeah, that sounds like the best idea, but I think we should have, the same naming convention.
Yes, a uniform naming standard.
And as a board, you can mandate that rule, you know.
Right.
And I fall
Yeah,
short.
we could, yeah.
Need to be unique enough though
Yeah.
to work.
What about, I mean, I was thinking something like first initial last name .hcl, and then if in the future there's ever another same first initial last name, it has to be, you know, first initial last name to .hcl, et cetera. And then it would be up to our own records retention to keep a record of what current and previous and future trustees, what email addresses they officially used, so that we have a record of that. So even if there's a past trustee, like, let's keep a record of what the official email account they used for their work was, so that's something we can dig up if necessary.
Do we want to set these up right away?
Discussing? Are there any serious caveats? Does anybody have a better idea for the naming scheme?
Sounds good.
First initial.
Last name .hcl@gmail.com. That's what that's my thought. So I'm happy to make a motion that board members create and adopt a separate email account strictly for library board business with the naming scheme, first initial last name .hcl@gmail.com. I'll make the motion.
Thank you, George. We have a first. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Laura. Any discussion?
Just to be clear, if someone already has it, you said you'd add the number 2 at the end of it.
Right,
The
so if
last
in the
name.
future there's like a Gregory Allen,
Mhm.
it would be gallen2.hcl@gmail.com. Yeah, because that particular name has already been taken, but that's what you would do. That's my thought.
Is through Woodlands or is not?
No, separate.
Separate.
Right, so it's
Okay.
just a Gmail account, it's just your own private Gmail account you create that has HCL in the name, and then we
Okay.
give that to Jessica and the city to put up with our other contact information, so it's our official public contact information for the board.
Do we want to set a time limit on this, have it done by X date?
There's no reason we couldn't get this done by next Friday.
Okay.
I mean, a week from tomorrow,
21st.
sure, by July 21st.
Are you adding that to the motion? Can that be done? It already was seconded, so I think we need to vote on it as is.
We could politely ask that
We can
everybody.
politely ask. It takes 5 minutes, so it shouldn't be an issue.
Okay.
I'll plan on updating the library
Website.
site and the city site, so long as this passes.
Right, and then as soon as we've got it set up, just get
Let
to
me
you,
know.
copy everyone else, just, in fact, email you from our new, saying, as you can see, I've set up my hcl@gmail.com account. provided that doesn't get caught by your spam filter or whatever.
Hopefully not.
Okay, so we have a first and a second, and we've had discussion without a date on it. All those in favor of setting up the Gmail account with the first initial last name as proposed by George, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries, thank you. All right, new business.
This is so exciting. So probably for the last 10 years, staff has been cleaning the library. And we have public restrooms and we see a lot of people. And this was something that we had kind of talked about in my interview as well, my thoughts on having a janitor service. And so we were able to work it into this fiscal year's budget to have someone come out based on the quote that we received, and we worked it into our budget. So to move it forward, the city already has a contract with East to West Enterprises for them to clean the BPU and City Hall building. In order for us to be added to the contract, we would need an addendum to the contract, which is what's in the packet. This would need to pass here and then go to council on Monday, and I do have permission, if this passes tonight, for this to be added to the packet for council on Monday to vote on as well. So it needs to pass us, then council, then it can be put into place. And so what we have talked with the cleaning company with, and what fits into our budget, is having them come out twice a week to clean the women's, men's, and children's restrooms. It's $45 per cleaning, and then they will also be cleaning the foyer area of the library once a month at $40 per cleaning. So it is in the budget to be done. We just need to vote on it. Any discussion to move this forward? So, any questions?
If I may, yeah, so this is a contract the cleaning service has with the city. It's an addendum to the contract that they have with the city, so their relationship is with the city. But what's being paid to them to clean our building is coming out of our budget.
Correct.
So are they billing us, or are they billing the city, or is that even, are those separate?
They will
things?
bill us separate.
Okay, and it's not a complication that it's an amendment to the contract with the city, but that they're billing us for these services?
Nope, completely okay, checked with the city attorney.
Okay,
Well, they probably bill BPU separately already.
okay,
I would think from City Hall, because BPU has their own financial entities.
right. Yeah, that makes sense. Great.
Sounds
Well,
good, I think it
yeah,
would be
this
a
is the
great move for
best
morale
news,
of
I'm
our
sure.
staff.
Everyone is like, when are we doing this? I'm like, hold up, I'm still waiting, hold on.
I know there's, quite frankly, there's been issues with variety of people using the restrooms, and, they get a lot of traffic sometimes a year, and especially during elections, and the staff, it gets really busy certain times, and then to add, clean the restroom when it's not in appropriate condition to let our patrons in first thing in the morning based on something that happened after hours or, during other times. And so I think it would really help morale of our staff. They have more important tasks to do than cleaning the restroom or dealing with some things that have been left behind that shouldn't have been.
Yeah, Heidi told me today that in the past, we've had people that we've offered the job to, but after hearing about all of the duties, including the cleaning, they've turned it down and they said no. So we have had that issue in the past where people didn't want to come here because of the cleaning duties added on to everything else that's
So
done.
it would help with hiring and staff retention.
Yeah, definitely.
So I will entertain a motion to approve this cleaning contract.
So moved.
Do we have a
Second.
second? Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, moved in second to approve the East to West Enterprises cleaning contract. And it sounds like obviously the city has vetted them and is using them, so there shouldn't be a problem. So, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Great, thank you. Goes to the members. They have to celebrate tomorrow.
Tuesday, after it goes through council. Thank you.
Okay, next is election of officers. Do you have any comments, Jessica, before we start our process?
I'm gonna let you guys handle it.
Okay. All right.
I motion that George Allen be elected president.
Okay, we have a motion for George to be president. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All righty. Any discussion?
Josh, why do you want George?
Got a master's in library science. I think he's, trying to know the laws and know the manual, and he's already gone through the whole thing to, what did he do, clean it up for grammar and style, so I think he has the knowledge and the experience. His second term as well.
This is your second year on board.
Well,
Second term, I think they're
Oh,
4 years.
fine.
Right,
He
right,
filled
because
in
I
extra.
filled in the end of one person's
Right.
term and then signed up for my next full, but I've been on the board since late 2020.
Since the late.
Yeah.
Okay. Any comments from yourself?
No lay episcopari, but other than that, and no, I'll take it all.
And you got
Any comments? Good. It's been moved and seconded that George Allen be the next incoming president. All those in favor say aye,
Aye.
and that passes. Okay, next.
Opposed?
Did vote.
Oh, it was all in favor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, next is nominations for vice president.
I'll nominate that Joshua Palladino serve as vice president.
Do we have a second?
a second?
We have a first and second for, did I do that right? Josh as a second for vice president. Any discussion?
Well, I know Josh personally. I've worked with him a long time. I trust him if in my absence, things need to be run attentively and professionally, I trust him to do so.
All those in favor of Josh, first vice president? Sorry.
Josh, how do you feel about that? And in particular, I'm not trying to call you out, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I know how busy you have been lately and how you haven't been able to attend and things like that for incredibly valid reasons. So how do you feel about that nomination?
Well, I'll be sad to not be secretary, of course, but no, it will be nice to not have the secretarial duties. I mean, if it actually did come to me being president, that might be a little bit of a burden, but also, that stage of our life is, by the grace of God, coming to an end next month, so hopefully that won't be an issue in the future.
So we have a first and a second for nominating Josh to be vice president. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, or those not voting? Okay, so passes 3. And now we have nominations for secretary.
I would like to nominate Laura Negus to act as secretary.
Jesus.
And do we have a second?
Second,
She's brand new. She doesn't even.
do you feel, have you taken minutes? It's a little bit of through a fire hose. I think I was also nominated, maybe
your
my
first
first
You
meeting.
were
was
made
actually
secretary
after
really
first
early
meeting.
on. Yeah.
It was a bit much,
Yeah,
but
yeah, the
I
first
can
thing to
walk
know
you
about
through it.
taking minutes is don't do, actually, and
What
then,
I did, my.
and then when I
jeez.
first signed on, we didn't even have an elected secretary, I just volunteered to take minutes, and the first thing I did, and the first thing Josh did, is try to write down every word that every single person
Right.
said.
Right.
You don't have to do that, that's the first thing to know.
Sure.
Yeah, the gist of the conversations And then especially any motion, who made the motion, who seconded it, the vote, the result.
And everything.
Yeah, that's the essential thing.
I'm sure I could handle that. I've done administrative duties for quite a while. I have not taken minutes before, I will say that, but I think I could manage it and willing to do it.
Very good.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, we have a motion for Laura for secretary and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? And that motion passes, thank you. Moving forward, I would just caution all three of the new officers to have good communication with Jessica and be very present. I know during my term, I have attended a lot of Friends of the Library meetings, programming and other things,
A lot of our.
and been very available and very present in the community at many of the events, including the big truck recent event. And so we hope that new officers are more present and supportive of
Even help with
Jessica
staff training.
and the staff training I've attended and things like that, but great, moving on. Next, we have board comments. Any comments from board members? All right. With that, our next meeting will be August 10th at 5 p.m. And I'll have accept the motion to adjourn.
So,
All right, thank you. And a second? All in favor, say aye. All right, thank you. Thank you everyone for attending tonight. I appreciate our community support and people being here.